Hello, I'm Richard Raffan, and in this video you can see how I made this little pot. It's Himalayan cedar, and it's got a base turned off. Basically it's a hollow turning with not too narrow an opening. So the pot was originally going to come out of this piece, with the pith is in the middle. Now the aim was to get the pot with the darker patch kind of coming over it as a kind of feature, and I didn't really want to waste all that timber, so what I did was get the next piece along and cut through the center on the bandsaw, and so I've now got the potential of a small dish in there, and this one, this will be the top, and so that will be, I've already drawn a circle on this, and that's a little pinpoint where the center of the compass was, the dividers. So a hole in there more or less at right angles. Oh, slid off to one side, which is not what I wanted. I don't use a drill with a spur on it because often the little spur just goes a bit deeper than I want. So this is going to be an enclosed form, so I'm going to use use the smaller chuck on the this is the Vic Mark 3-in-1. So the collar has been reversed, so I've got just a smaller faceplate here, and I think I'll only need I don't need all of that, so I'll just put on one spacer and then run the lathe slow. Ooh, went the wrong way. Let the lathe do most of the work, but don't do this at high speed when it's not a round block. Lock the spindle and then I can cinch it up. Right. So, I don't really need a tail center up because it's on pretty securely, and very securely. These chucks do hold very well, and I normally rough down on the outside with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge, just because it's a less expensive tool. So it's just a question really of taking the outside off, which the rest just dropped a little bit at some stage there. That's all down with the left wing of the tool. And coming up the side, it's more just to the left of the nose, flute out about 45 degrees. Drifting into a shear cut at the end with the bevel rubbing. Now, don't go racing off the end because that's going to chip everything, apart from the fact that I want to round it over anyway. So this is Himalayan cedar, and I've never worked it before, so it'll be interesting to see how it cuts and so on. It's fairly heavy timber, so or for pine, or for a fir, for what am I trying to say, a softwood, and yeah. So I want to round this over. I need a foot on the bottom at some stage, but I'll round this over first. Whoa, right. Well, that was a big lump, and let's probably remove the whole of one wing. I know it's mostly bark, just there's a bit of a lump off. It's partly why you don't stand in line with the wood when you're doing things like that, because if that comes off, hits you in the face, or it's more likely to hit you in the face, or should be wearing a face shield, which I'm not, but I'm standing off to one side, so when that kind of thing happens, it's not very unlikely to hit me. Can now expect the other side to do the same thing. Right, now I'm using the right wing, the tool rolled over about 45 degrees. And all I really want to do is get rid of the bark, and that's almost gone. You can't see it from where the camera is there, but it's down at about this level, so I'll just get rid of that first. I'm not going to stick it on with super glue or anything like that, because eventually the bark will come off anyway, so super glue never lasts that long. Right, so now getting down to the stage where I can start to think about the shape. And very kind of spherical at the moment, so I just want to have a slightly longer curve at the top, and I can do that from the other side. So all I want to do here is just cut this bottom bit cleanly. I'll be getting back to it later anyway when I come to finish it off. I'm going to get this flat, so now, because I haven't cut this wood before, now's the time to find out how it's working. So that's with a little shear cut to the centre. That's not too bad, that's more than sandable. I'm just going to try and scrape it on the shear scraper flat. Just go up a few revs now. And somebody will want to know how fast it's going exactly, and it says 1333. So around 1500 would be fine. Right, so that's got that clean. I don't think this is going to cut so cleanly here. So that's with the shear scraper, but used flat. Hello, come up pretty well. Good. It's quite dusty, so I'm going to put the extraction on. Is dust. Right, so that's the outside done as far as I need to at this stage, and then all the rest is going to be done from the other side. Oops, wrong lever. So that should go into this chuck. I've got 3 chucks which would potentially cope with this one, and probably just a fraction too small for the bigger one, but this will be fine. So the main thing here is that I've got a crisp angle corner in there, so these jaws can just sit in there, and that will then just nest that up nicely. Now my main problem with this wood is that if I go too hard in the cutout here, the foot might just split off. So next job is going to be the opening I'm going to come down to about here, and what I'm aiming to have is a begin to see the pattern coming. We'll have a kind of oval shape which comes around the opening, and then you'll have the pail either side. So this can be done with a bowl gouge or with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. It's really with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge, and just to see how it's going to cut again. Often with these little shapes I like to put beads and so on, but if I'm going to do that, it really seems to be a bit overkill for when I've got this pattern as well. Although in the long run the two different colours will be much the same. The shear scrape just to get me around the corner. Now I can't get round with that tool onto where it goes back towards the chuck, so I'm going to use the right wing tool right over on its side and just gently get at that. There's a little bump up on the top, might as well do it with this while I've got on here. Right, so with this one, we'll do a little kind of ogee here. Shear scrape into that. So with the tool right on an edge, you can shear scrape into a curve. Oh, well, that's come up pretty well as far as the cutting is concerned. A little bit rough there, which I can do with the scraper again. I've got enough colour there. I'll do some grooves or something there a bit later. I think I can cope with them on this. Now I haven't gone probably right down to where I will be in the end, but I'll next thing is to get a depth hole done, so with a depth drill with a number of marks on it, and so I can go into the end one. So this tells me how far to go. Just better check. Don't really want to go through in public, so to speak. Right. Got myself about 3mm clearance there. Just going to move my tailstock out of the way. I keep jabbing myself on it. Now coming into here, I'm going to use a 3/8 bowl gouge to start with. And the good thing is that I know the wood's going to cut fairly well. I need to get some more light down and into it. I hope it isn't going to obscure your camera. That's okay. I want to get down near the bottom of the hole first. you'll have a better view than I do here. Now, coming across, I need, there are two things. One, I need to get my, my dust extractor corner out of the way, and I need a longer bevel on the left wing, and for that I have, and I also need a shorter rest to make life a bit easier. So I can swing it in. Always a good idea, if you can, to have the rest at right angles to the direction you're going. So to get into there, I've got the 1/4 inch deep fluted bowl guard with a very long left wing.
And what does that long left wing do?
Well, that allows me to get in at an angle, and I should be able to cut this. Rather than mess around with various kind of hollowers. Now over here, I've just got a little half bowl somewhere. So this will be a not dissimilar shape. So if I'm cutting in here with a bowl with a long bevel, I've got the bevel riding, and so I can get in at that angle and get round to there, and after that I can do it with scrapers. I can even do that with a slightly smaller one, which I've got. This is, can you see that all right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that means that this was also cut with this tool, so I can get in there quite comfortably. So it's really a function. If you have a very smaller opening, then you need a longer bevel on the side of the tool, or you might use it more upright, which is risking a catch. But I can generally cut in round these unless the opening is very, very small with this gouge.
And that's as far as you go with the gouge, then you use a scraper?
Yeah, and then I use the scraper around the bottom. Yeah. Every time I do these, I'm reminded why I didn't do them commercially, because it takes longer to get the shavings out than anything else. So I've got a bulk in there now, so I've got a pretty good cut down to about there at the moment. I'd rather get that shoulder out of the way, because that's going to that's a potential place for the tool to catch. Now, again, I've never had compressed air because I've never had anywhere to put a cylinder, so I tend to have to get this stuff out by hand, which is a bit irritating and takes time. Right, so in here now.
Can't see with the shoulder in the way there.
Now I'm probably going to block you here just to do these initial ones, because I'm right in the way, and you won't be able to see what's happening anyway, because there will be shavings in the way, and if I can't see what's happening, I don't see why you should. So.
Yeah.
But you can see it and hear what's happening. So the big problem then is getting round the corner at the bottom. So that's, I've got a very nice clean cut as far as that. It could come back a little bit further just inside, so I've just got to get in a little bit steeper, which is quite awkward with this, the lathe in this position, but it's not going to move because it's been fixed. Rest too close. So I've just got to roll the tool a little bit more upright to get the, and also this is all getting in the way, so just take that away. And that chatter sound is a bit much, but I don't know if it was, the cut seems to be clean enough. Okay, that's a good cut, so that's good. Now from here on in, I can get at all this with scrapers, I think. Yep. So the main thing to know now is exactly where the inside is, or where the base is. So I've got a magnet which I'll put on the scraper. It's getting a bit short, this scraper, so if I run out of rest, I know I've gone too far. So the main thing here is to trying to keep the weight on the tool handle. Dave is struggling to get a camera angle on for you, and he's right behind my calipers too. So, got these. Let's see where we are down here. I don't need to go particularly thin. What I'm after is something which feels nice, rather than. I'm certainly not going to spend time piercing it to show how thin it is. I need quite a bit more. I can take quite a bit more out in the bottom for the moment, and then I start to refine the curve about 2/3 of the way down. Let's see how we're going down in there, which is the crucial bit. I thought I'd been a bit enthusiastic there, but it still seems to be okay. I think if I had a catch here, it's likely just to split, in which case that'll be terminal. So I can go down a little bit more where I was. I can go down quite a bit more at centre. That's beginning to sound a bit thin. So I'll just check. Great advantage of these is that you can get right into the bottom of somewhere and see what you've got. So I've still got 20mm, that's 3/4 of an inch more or less. And yes, I can still see some of the rest of the drill, depth drill mark. So it's now going to be a question of feeling my way off the wall side and pivoting the tool round, trying to sweep it around a smooth arc to just to get a smooth curve. It doesn't have to be the same as the outside. I feel forms like this, they feel better if there's a bit of weight in the bottom. In this situation, I don't have to be too careful when I'm on the sides here about keeping the tool down. The scraper can even tilt up a bit. Right, so that's feeling fairly thick just there, and I can go down, so I can just go in a little more forcefully as I come off the bend. No, not cutting anything there because there was a chip on the edge. And I could hear that. Oh, that's good. That's a relief. Now, if I'm not quite sure where to start a cut, I can get in there with a pencil, and so I know it's okay down to as far as my thumb can go into there. So I'm really just going on from that point and across the bottom. Now across the bottom, this tool is rounder than it needs to be, so I can use this one across the very bottom, which means I transfer my magnet. Now on the base, at the bottom, I do need to have the tool tilted down. Right, you can probably still see there's a little remnant of the hole. That's about the only time I hold the tool near the end of the handle so I can peer in and see what's happening. The trouble is you have a catch, you get a clip around the ear with the end of the handle. Oops. I'm down onto plain material now, so that's also a kind of depth guide because this changes colour halfway down. I'll check this. So now down to that. On the side, it's still 1/4 of an inch, so there's plenty to play with. So on the bottom, just remind myself, got that much, so I can go down probably half that, and nothing like a bit of commitment, so I'll just do it, and then it's a question of eliminating that dip or the bump which I have up the side at the moment. Just about see that. So the principle here really is to use as bigger or flatter radius on the scraper as you can, or it's not quite well expressed, I suppose. You want the radius here needs to be slightly tighter than the curve you're cutting. That way you don't want the corners of the scraper into the wood, but it's just much easier to gauge the surface you're cutting, the curve. If you've got a radius which is very close to it, it's much more difficult to move the pointed, the rounder nose through. Now if I can get that up into the corner, I can feel it. I can do that, except that might grab in and make a mark, so I'll do it with this one. I do have a larger scraper I could get in there, but I'm not quite sure where it is. So I can feel the bump. Because the question is just trying to go smoothly through the bump. Sweep through so the wood doesn't have too much say in what you're doing. Right, that feels okay. Right, so that's going to be fine. I'm going to be reverse chucking this and taking the bottom off. I can now think about what to do with the rim, and I was going to do something with it. I put a little bead around it, I think, and one way of doing that is to right, we'll just move the camera and then
There's a lot of shaky video in this. This handheld.
Right. He's not drunk. It's early in the
Hanging
morning.
out the window.
It's early in the morning. So it's, right. So can we see the rim all right there? Probably be better around the angle here because you'll be able to see the bead developing. Right. So. I'm going to get my light up a bit. Right, so camera adjusted, nothing done in the meantime, so just come down here very gently against the end grain. Right, so what I got at the moment, if I turn that on its side, I've got a little angle and quite like that, might hang on to that. And I want to kind of make a cove up on the top, so if I stuck this straight in, I'd have that radius. If I tilt it right up on edge, I'll get the curve that you see as you look down onto it. So the rest needs to come down a bit and back off. Hand on the rest and just squeeze in. Teeny catch there, which wasn't disastrous. And just get in underneath the bead there. Ooh, feels lovely. Right, so that's good, and I just need to do something with the rim so that it's not quite so flat on top. I'm going to shift you again.
Okay.
Yep. Good. Actually, just show me that again. Yes, no, that's the one. Right, so so now we're back here. Just like to do something with the rim. I'll probably round it over in the end, which will be mostly done with abrasives. So this is the 1/4 inch bowl gouge, and I'm just going to use the kind of the nose and just slightly to the right, take a little cut in. That'll, and then the rest can be done by hand. Right, so that's that. Reassemble the dust hood. So that can go in there. Get its lid on, and sand this. And start off with try the 180. Being a bit of an optimist, I imagine I'll go down to the 120. We'll see how we go. So 180 is going to be fine. I'll get a fresh bit. So this is folded in 3, so it's easier to use. ridges as I look in this angle. But, I don't know if it's ridges or it might be grain. It's not, it's ridges that needs 120. Put the speed down a wee bit, a couple of hundred revs, if it cuts better. Now, that was just getting my fingers barely reached to the bottom, so break a knuckle doing that. What's happening on the inside. Whoops. So that's going to take more sanding. No, it's not as bad as I thought it was. There's a little bit just picked up in the 2/3 of the way around. Right, back to the 180 up there. So I can see what's happening at about 4 o'clock, so that it all looks pretty good now. I've already used the 180 there. I don't believe it, I've not got the blue abrasive out. I've got to find it. Where is it? So, look at this in big rolls. And then this breaks down nicely into 3 across. So with the cloth back stuff, it's very easy to tear. Resinous, this stuff, so there is a bit of a build up. On the abrasive. Let's see how it looks. So there's a bit picked up there which I hadn't seen before, so this is I'm going to have to go back to the 120 for that. Should have checked earlier. But not a big deal. Oh, so it's just here, not very much. If this there's some there, the chances are there's some the other way around. That's all right. So you can see the dust is pouring off. That's gone. So back to 180. Very rarely sand finer than 240 grit. Stick some boiled linseed on the inside. Try not to get my hands caught. No, lost the rag. And I haven't. So, put a bit on the outside. I'm going to reverse this, so I've got more sanding to do on the outside. That. Now I've got a choice of oops, that's fine. When it comes to doing the inside or to hold it, I can put it over the over these jaws, or I can build a wooden make a wooden chuck. But if it's going over these jaws, one of the problems can be that if these are a bit loose, especially with some of the older chucks as they age, or if they're heavily used, as you turn them on, there's enough centrifugal force that the jaws get thrown out, and that's just enough to split wood like this. So you've got to be fairly careful doing this with chuck jaws. If you're doing it with one of these, you can get some non-slip cloth, and that can go around there, and that protects the wood a little bit from the jaws. This stuff's expandable too, so it stretches a bit, so it would help to adjust the jaws in the first place, wouldn't it? Right, so that's going to go onto there, and that'll go right up to the chuck, up to the body here, the base of the jaws. They can all just tuck in there. It goes on. It goes up so it's just tight enough. Now, if you're feeling reckless, you probably, or confident should we say, you probably wouldn't bother to bring the tail centre up, but I'm going to do that today, so I'd rather not have a total disaster. And we'll put got a little bit of block which I've just had earlier on today from one of the other videos. So this is a little bit of MDF with a hole through the middle that goes over the cone and up to the centre. That's all running nice and true, And now I can do whatever I like with this foot. It's going to get slightly rounded. Do I want it? Don't want it completely rounded. I'll just I've already got the inside dished a bit. I do that almost automatically, but I can see that it not as dished as quite as much as I might have liked. But I'm going to take away the foot anyway, and I'm going to do that with the left wing of the 3/8 spindle gouge. Right. So for this. Going to use the wing. It's really just almost near the nose of the tool. I'm not using the whole of the side. My hand is going to be on the rest, so I can kind of squeeze the tool in. Even have a bit more speed, I think. I'm probably up to about 1500 now. Now, do I want an ogee there or not? What does it look like? Now I think I'm quite happy just taking it down to just a curve straight down. So I'm going to do that with the scraper flat on the rest first, just to, because if you can do it flat on the rest, it's just easier. And you can hear a slight vibration as it comes out, and that means that on the wood there's going to be a difference. Don't think that's it. No, but there's a bit of an undulation there anyway, so sanding is going to take care of the difference. But then I'm going to tilt this up on edge. It's got a rolled edge, so it'll slide easily up and down the rest. And then I can just take this back, and that should be a cleaner surface. And then coming across the bottom, I can keep the block in place for a little bit. Undercut it slightly, and then just back the whole thing off. Assume that it's going to come loose. So you have your hand over the top. The thumb is a fulcrum for the tool, a kind of lateral fulcrum. Okay, so you can see the little where the shavings come off is just off the nose of the tool, just to the left. And then I'm going to put a little bead in there or a groove. Just ease the tool in on its side. Rough grain on the left, on the right, so just little arcing cut. You might make that a button, so a broader arcing curve. Right, 180 grit. Oh, because I used 120 up there originally, I should do it again. Break some of the waxy stuff out. And the 240 grit. just go with a fresh bit there. There's a fair amount of oil on this rag already, so that will probably do the job. Oops. Now that's skidded on the chuck because I just went a bit too hard, and I hope that hasn't provided an opportunity for me to show you something else. No, if I had to re-chuck that, now that would have to go into a hole and be gripped around the outside. But that's that little pot.